You know, when I heard about the new Ghostbusters movie, I'm thinking this is just another generic reboot trying to cash off a big name for the 1980s. And after seeing this movie, you know what? I'm absolutely right. Ghostbusters 2016, directed by Paul Feig, the man that directed Heat, Bridesmaids, and Spy, all starring Melissa McCarthy. He's back again with Melissa McCarthy, along with Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones. And for our token male, we got Chris Hemsworth. This is a reboot of the 1984 Ghostbusters movie, and it's very much a blatant cast grab off of a big name from the 1980s, just like the Total Recall remake was, or the RoboCop remake was. And it's so typical coming from the most sold out studio in America, Sony, to make this movie. But it does have some positives. So we got a good cast and some good ideas for the movie. So let's talk about the plot. Kristen Wiig plays Erin. She's a science professor who's up on her tenure, and she really wants to be taken seriously as a scientist. Even though she's had some history of believing in the paranormal, she wants to put that behind her and focus on serious science. But it comes out that she wrote a book on the paranormal, and this area is calling her back, and she has to get involved in it. Her best friend Abby is the one who helped publish the book, played by Melissa McCarthy. She ends up getting back together with Abby and meeting Abby's new friend, Jillian Holtzman, who is this weapons expert and very eccentric woman who, even though I didn't really like this movie, I thought she was my favorite member of the cast. I did like how eccentric and a bit crazy she was. So they go and investigate paranormal occurrences that are happening in New York. Sounds familiar. Eventually, they meet up with Patty, played by Leslie Jones, who joins up with them because she has seen a ghost in the subway. They gotta go up against a forgettable villain who is a blatant copy of a character from the second Ghostbusters movie, Janosch. They also get a secretary named Kevin, played by Chris Hemsworth, who becomes the token male and used very much for eye candy, but he does provide some comic relief to the movie, and that's pretty much the film. So when I heard about this Ghostbusters reboot, I really didn't have high expectations for the movie. The trailer did not look good. The jokes in the trailer did not look good. The special effects from the trailer looked horrible. It looked like it relied way too much on CGI and not enough practical effects, or if any at all. And the jokes really don't look all that great, so I really didn't think this movie was going to be all that good. But I wanted to give it a chance, even though the trailer got the most dislikes on YouTube. So when I go see this movie, I have to say it's very, very forgettable, not very memorable at all. Let's talk about the good things about this movie though first. The cast, I have to say, is pretty good. You got a good cast, so you got some good potential to create some good chemistry there. Because all four of these ladies are very talented and very funny. Chris Hemsworth can be pretty funny as well. They have some good ideas with some of the weapons that they're using. They have like grenades that they want to use against the ghosts, which is a very cool idea. That is a motorcycle that shows up once in the movie. That would have been cool to see the Ghostbusters in the original 80s using a motorcycle during the sequel. That would have been cool and would have made the sequel much better, even though I did like Ghostbusters too. But this movie isn't really all that good, and the positives are very small when compared to the negatives. The negatives, first off, the callbacks to the original are too forced. You got scenes that are blatant copies of scenes from the first two Ghostbusters movie, and it just feels too obvious when you see scenes that are copying scenes from the first movie. Like you got a scene of Kristen Wiig banging on a restaurant that has glass walls surrounding it, just like Rick Moranis did in the first Ghostbusters movie, or when the Ghostbusters go after their first ghost, it's in a scene very similar to the ghost scene in the library. The Ghostbusters going after their first ghost with their proton packs, and it's very similar to when the Ghostbusters in the 80s went after a ghost in the restaurant. Only the new Ghostbusters are going after a ghost in a concert. And stuff like that just seems so obvious that this movie doesn't really feel original or fresh, really. The jokes really aren't all that funny. There are few funny jokes, but very few, and other jokes just feel like they've been reused from previous movies, like Kate McKinnon using a Young Frankenstein joke, or Leslie Jones using a common joke I've seen in many movies, "The power of Patty compels you." It's like, how many times have I heard "the power of something compels you" from other movies? A couple years ago we had "This Is the End," and that movie had a similar joke with that same exact line, and now they're reusing that line in this movie, so it just shows how unoriginal that joke is too. I did like that Melissa McCarthy tones herself down in this movie. Usually she's very high strung in many of her films, and it's nice that she toned herself down in this movie. And I did like that Leslie Jones is more part of the cast than Ernie Hudson was in the first two Ghostbusters movies, but this movie isn't really all that good, and I didn't expect it to be as good as the 1984 movie. I mean, the 1984 movie is like winning the lottery. It's like catching lightning in a bottle. It's magic. It's fantastic film. There's no way this reboot could have been as good as that, or could have been as good as the second one, even though the second one's not as good as the first one. And it's not better than the animated series, although it does have a callback to the animated series in one scene too as well. The cameos are not really worked in naturally from the original cast. They feel a bit forced, but the two best cameos are Dan Aykroyd, who played Ray Stantz in the original Ghostbusters movie, and Annie Potts, who played Janine, the receptionist from the Ghostbusters films. The other cameos of Ernie Hudson, Bill Murray, and Dana Barrett, Sigourney Weaver, they're not really worked in all that well, and they could have been done a little bit better. Also, there was this one scene from the trailer that shows this bear trap-like gadget that Holtzman was making, and that gadget doesn't show up till like the end of the movie. I thought that gadget was going to be a part of the film. To see that doesn't show up till like the end of the movie as the credits are rolling, that is really makes me angry, because I was curious to see how that was going to be worked into the film. That's stupid. So really the movie is not all that good, and I just didn't really care for this movie all that much. So I'm going to give this movie a C-. I was originally going to give this a C, but every time I think about this movie, the grade just goes a little bit down, a little bit further, and it's not going any lower than a C-, which means it's completely forgettable, and I'm already forgetting about it a day after seeing it. So that's all I gotta say about the new Ghostbusters movie. You want to call somebody for when you see a ghost, call somebody else. Don't call these four.